Azerbaijan
Je
for
donne
his
maintenant
statement
la
and now give
parole
the
à la
floor
distinguée
to the
représentante de
distinguished
l'Irlande.
representative of
Madame, vous avez la
Ireland.
parole.
Ma'am, you have the floor.
Geogwitch Chair, Samantha O'Brien O'Reilly, UN Youth Delegate for Ireland. Poverty exists in many forms. It is not exclusive to faraway countries, cities, or communities. It is omnipresent. It exists in our own communities, our own cities, our own countries. Inequality, both between and within countries, is higher than ever before. Yet far too often we fail to recognise the links between our own behaviour and the dire circumstances in which many people are forced to live. Climate change disproportionately affects the poorest in the world. The choices that we make as consumers impact people all across the world. It is essential that we stand firm in our commitment to the principles espoused in the Paris Agreement, and that we challenge those who would seek to deny climate change to further their own ends. Peace, justice, and a strong rule of law are essential to achieving all the Sustainable Development Goals, but they are especially relevant in eradicating poverty. Without access to justice and a transparent and accountable justice system, eradicating poverty will be nothing more than an aspiration, noble but unfilled. Many people who live below the poverty line are actually in work, evidence that the mere fact of having a job is not sufficient to eradicate poverty. Young people are some of the most vulnerable workers in our society. They are least likely to have job stability, and they are at the greatest risk of exploitation. Proper regulations are required to ensure that this does not occur, and to ensure that all workers receive a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Exploitative trade practices and discriminatory property laws further entrench poverty. Essential to women's economic empowerment is protecting their property rights. Far too often, women undertake the majority of unpaid work, both in developed and developing societies. Expanding paid work in the care economy is vital to fostering economic empowerment for all. Access to finance, to education, to support for entrepreneurial endeavours should not depend on one's gender, but on one's capability. Recognising the feminisation of poverty is essential to ensuring sustainable development for all. We urge each and every member of the United Nations to ensure that no child ever has to go to bed hungry, that no person ever has to experience homelessness or illness due to lack of affordable health care. We urge you to ensure that poverty is part of the history of humanity, not its future. Gur raibh maith agaibh.
Colm O'Rourke, UN Youth Delegate for Ireland. Madam Chair, what have you been reading, listening to, or watching about poverty in the world? The simple truth is that although media covers the topic of poverty, little effort is made to provide coverage of the real experience of people in poverty. You cannot expect to pass an exam without reading material in advance. So how do we expect to overcome the challenge of poverty without the wider public understanding its reality in a diverse and accurate manner? It must be understood that utilising media in an effective and ethical manner, using people's stories, will create a surge of energy among the public to uproot poverty. The power of media for social good must not be underestimated. Every effort must be made by countries to ensure that media is part of the plan to efficiently achieve Goal 1 of the Sustainable Development Goals. Media misinformation continues to grow across the globe, and the realities of inequalities are inaccurately perceived by many. News becomes history, and fake news becomes fake history. And we must not be the first generation that is responsible for remembering things that didn't happen, creating a false depiction of our society, and giving a false sense of direction for our future generations, to fight societal inequalities and maintain common growth. Instead, we must be energized by the potential reality that we can become the first generation to end poverty. I believe that if there's one group of people in the world that can stop the spread of fake news, it's young people. Through global citizenship education in formal and non-formal sectors, young people must be given the tools and information to make sense of the times in which they live, to be empowered and enhance their media literacy skills to make the world a better place in which to live for everyone. In achieving Agenda 2030, let's make access to funding for innovative technologies to combat misinformation, introduce incentives for initiatives to fact-check claims made in the media, and let's bring the message of sustainable development to new media and the places where young people gather. Member states must take the lead in ensuring that they play their part in using media as a strategy for the eradication of poverty to achieve sustainable development for all, and consider the establishment of centres to deal with misinformation. Let's zoom in on poverty, make it the story, and shape public opinion to eradicate it. It costs nothing to keep poverty in mind, but forgetting about poverty could cost us a lot. Gaurav Mahagul, thank you.
Je remercie les gens représentants dans